If we get back the Senate and we're in charge of this body, and there's judicial openings, we will talk to our colleagues on the other side. But if we're in charge, she would not have been before this committee. You would have had somebody more moderate than this.
That was Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a member of the Judiciary Committee and its former chair, saying the quiet part out loud this morning. He's effectively saying there that if Republicans take control of the Senate, they won't let any Supreme Court nominees from Democratic presidents get a hearing. Graham was speaking ahead of a planned committee vote to advance the nomination of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the full Senate. Graham claimed Jackson isn't moderate enough, even though he voted just last year to confirm her to her current job on the influential D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. But we shouldn't be surprised that Lindsey Graham keeps making up reasons to oppose Democratic Supreme Court nominees. Listen to what he said in 2016 as his party was refusing to give President Obama's Supreme Court nominee Merrick Garland a hearing.
If there's a Republican president in 2016 and a vacancy occurs in the last year of the first term, you can say Lindsey Graham said, let's let the next president, whoever it might be, make that nomination. And you could use my words against me and you'd be absolutely right.
So much for Graham's claim today that a more moderate candidate than Judge Jackson might get a hearing from Republicans, as if Merrick Garland was the middle-of-the-road moderate choice. And, of course, Graham's words were used against him 4 years later when Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died only weeks before Election Day. And Graham helped his golf buddy Donald Trump, then president, get his third Supreme Court justice onto the court, Amy Coney Barrett. Nothing moderate about her views. So, with the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting today to advance Judge Jackson's nomination, we are this close to the anti-democratic situation where only Republicans will get to place justices on the Supreme Court, where every nominee from a Democratic president, assuming we'll still be allowed to have those either, that every Democratic pick would get the Merrick Garland treatment if Republicans control the Senate. Today, Senator Graham offered no bogus claims about election year vacancies, no pretexts about letting the voters decide. He was blatant in saying that Republicans would use any tactic they could, bust every norm they could to consolidate power and control the court. Now, this week is a milestone for the Supreme Court and this country. It is all but guaranteed that Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson will be confirmed as the first black female Supreme Court justice. And it could happen as soon as Friday. Already 3 Republican senators have said they will vote to confirm her. Not Lindsey Graham, though. But we're in a midterm year, and the rest of the GOP has already gone so scorched earth that Democrats had to delay today's committee vote because one of their members was stuck on a plane, and not a single Republican on the Judiciary Committee would vote to back Judge Jackson. Not one. So let's be clear. Republicans under Trump secured for themselves, through some pretty dodgy maneuvering, a 6-3 supermajority on the Supreme Court. And now under Biden are openly saying they won't confirm any Democratic nominees to that court, even judges they themselves may have voted for previously. If ever there was an argument for Democrats to expand the court, to add justices while they control both the White House and Congress, this is it. But Democrats, for some strange self-destructive reason, have never taken the courts as seriously as the Republicans have. Joining me now is a man who wants his party to focus much more on judicial picks and the role of the courts, the president of the American Constitution Society and former Democratic senator from Wisconsin, Russ Feingold. He sat on the Senate Judiciary Committee long enough to see 4 Supreme Court justices confirmed. Senator, thanks so much for coming back on the show. We know what Republicans will do when they take power. Lindsey Graham is making it very clear. Isn't this the moment Democrats need to get serious about expanding the court? I know I keep saying it on the show, but they keep saying they're not going to let the Democrats do anything with the Supreme Court going forward.
Well, let me answer not as a Democrat or a Republican, because the American Constitution Society is a nonpartisan group. But as an American and as a group of lawyers across the country, we believe that something has to be done about what has happened with this process. We cannot allow the destruction of the Senate confirmation process, which is exactly what has happened here. And so, yes, we do believe that we have to take a serious look at ways to reform the court. In addition to finishing this very important job of confirming Judge Jackson, we have to look at the possibility of expanding the court, the possibility of life terms or getting rid of life terms for members of the United States Supreme Court, and reforms of the court itself, such as dealing with the abuse of the so-called shadow docket, ethics rules for the Supreme Court. These all have to be part of the agenda.
Senator, let's just talk about this confirmation process involving Judge Jackson. We saw and we covered extensively on the show, you were here at the time, some of those awful questions about child porn sentencing and some of the nonsense that was thrown at Judge Jackson, critical race theory, et cetera, et cetera. But there have been other questions posed to her that weren't in those televised hearings because committee members often supplement the public hearings with written questions. I want to read to you one question that Senator Ted Cruz asked Judge Jackson in writing. He said, Justice Kagan has mentioned previously that she went hunting with Justice Scalia after joining the court. Will you commit to making reasonable efforts to go to a shooting range or go hunting prior to ruling on any Second Amendment cases? Some on Twitter wondered if Senator Cruz would commit to getting pregnant before ruling on abortion cases. But what is your reaction to that bizarre question from Ted Cruz?
Well, we've seen a lot of bizarre, and I got to tell you, Mehdi, in this past couple of weeks, I've gone from euphoria to disgust almost on a daily basis. This is a euphoria day because you have 3 Republican senators saying they're going to vote for Ketanji, and I think that's a great moment. But this kind of behavior, and it's sad you have to use the behavior, but your behavior, it's sort of for kids. But what is this? This is the kind of behavior I never saw when I was on the Judiciary Committee. I never saw that kind of silliness and that lack of dignity. The Supreme Court must be about dignity, and the process for confirming Supreme Court justices have to be about dignity. And yes, a number of Republican senators have just trashed the dignity of the Senate confirmation process this time.
How much do you think the appointment of Justice Jackson, Judge Jackson becoming Justice Jackson on the Supreme Court, that historic move, how much will that help President? Put your Democratic hat on now. Put off the American Constitution, Daddy. As a Democrat, how much do you think it'll help President Biden and the Democrats in the midterms?
I'm not going to put the Democrat hat on. I can't because of what I do right now. But what I will say is this, is that this process has been completely fair and dignified. President Biden didn't turn over his process that the Constitution gives to him of deciding who should be the nominee. The Senate didn't turn it over to another group like President Trump did. The process from the point of view of those who are in the majority was clean and it was dignified. And so all of this leads to the confirmation later this week, as you said, of somebody who clearly is going to be an excellent justice, who's already been confirmed by the Senate 3 times. And so this all helps in the long run, showing the American people that there is a dignified way to govern this country instead of using race whistles, dog whistles, and other things which were being demonstrated at the committee hearing.
Senator, you mentioned a few times now the court being dignified or not being dignified and keeping dignity for the Supreme Court. The last time a Senate controlled by one party approved a nominee from a president of a different party was in 1991, Justice Clarence Thomas, who is, of course, in the news right now on the subject of the dignity of the court and the ethics of the court and the integrity of the court, given his wife's text messages to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows after the election, calling for the overturning of the election result, calling for the sending of the Biden family to Guantanamo Bay. And yet the strongest reactions we've heard from Democratic leaders in the Senate, in the House, are that maybe Justice Thomas should recuse himself from January 6 related cases. As you mentioned earlier, there's no ethics code for the Supreme Court. That's the kind of reform that we need. But that doesn't go far enough. Why are we not having hearings into this? Why is there no talk of impeachment? The only way you can get rid of a lifetime appointee from the Supreme Court is to impeach them. Now, whether or not you support impeaching Clarence Thomas, surely we should have a conversation about holding a justice to account, given the multiple conflicts of interest that have now been revealed involving Clarence Thomas.
No, you're absolutely right. This show hopefully is just the beginning of this process. What went on there is very troubling. Of course, the January 6th Commission will have some work to do on this, but I suspect that the Senate and the House will be pursuing this question, not probably from the point of view of impeachment, but from the point of view of putting in place hard and fast ethics rules and potentially disciplinary actions if, in fact, there was some inappropriate connectivity between the justice and his spouse. But that has to wait for the process of revealing the information and not jumping to any conclusions. I think it deserves a full investigation.
I mean, the problem with saying you're going to bring in rules in the future is that's a forward-looking process, which is great. But what do we do about the backward-looking stuff?
Investigations now about this incident as well as rules for the future.
But what happens if the investigation comes back But what happens if the investigation comes back and says, you know what, Clarence Thomas is in the wrong here? You and I both know literally the only instrument that Congress has under the Constitution to hold a justice to account is impeachment. There's no lesser version or higher version. It's just impeachment.
There are censure possibilities. There is the possibility of the court itself acting, the possibility of the Chief Justice himself acting. I agree with you that the impeachment is the formal one, but that has never actually happened in this country's history. But it's possible that this would be such an occasion. I think we have to wait for the facts to unfold.
There has been a Supreme Court justice impeached but not convicted. Russ Feingold, thank you so much for your time and your analysis, as ever. Appreciate it. Hi, I'm Mehdi Hasan. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more of the Mehdi Hasan Show by clicking on any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thank you for watching.